Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to the Person-Centered Approach seminar. Today we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about congruence and understanding yourself, being genuine, and knowing how congruency can affect your relationships. So last week we shared about Scott Dinsmore's TED Talk, and one of the things he spoke about was the importance of knowing yourself and your own values and reflecting on your own experiences. So he had said we need to take time to reflect on our values and experiences, and basically, in other words, that's to understand ourselves. So I see a lot of connection between that and the person-centered approach. But in reality, I think the majority of us spend very little time reflecting on our thoughts, our experiences, actions, and reactions. So we're not actually doing the learning part of life in terms of learning from our experiences and thinking about deeper understanding of ourselves based on how we react to our experiences. In fact, in our discussion in classes, some people admitted not spending time reflecting, and to be honest, me too. I only remember one person saying that they do have a habit of keeping a diary or a journal. And I do think that reflecting, meditation, and keeping a diary or journal are all techniques that can help us be more congruent. So a lot of the quotes that you'll be seeing today are from A Way of Being, which was written by Carl Rogers. It was published in 1980. And the first principle of the person-centered approach is congruence. So it's kind of a big word. What does congruence mean? Definitions are often tricky, but one way of defining congruence is that when our experiencing of the moment, what we experience, when we experience it, is present in our awareness. And when what is present in our awareness is present in our communication. So just to give you an example, right now I'm very nervous about doing what I'm doing, about explaining about this person-centered approach, and so aware of my own anxiety about being able to state it clearly, and then communicating that anxiety to you, letting you know how I'm feeling. Those are two examples of congruence. One is my own awareness of it, that's a congruence, and then being willing to communicate my nervousness to you, so maybe you can pick it up in my intonation or the tone of my voice, but also from my explaining, then there's hopefully it's very clear. To give you another example, here's a little image, and you can see the two people. Imagine that they're communicating, and actually the one person, the man, maybe he has this incredible feeling of love. He's for some reason very happy, it's just in his mind he's got this idea of love, and that's what he's thinking about. And then he's talking to a woman, and she has some anger in her for some reason. I'm not sure what she's mad about, but when the two of them talk, if regardless of what they're talking about, if their communication takes place and they don't realize how the other one is feeling, regardless of what they talk about, they may not be able to communicate well. And they don't necessarily have to tell the other person why they're feeling the way they're feeling, but it might be useful for them when someone says, "How are you doing?" and the one person says, "I'm fine." Even when they're not fine, that's being incongruent. So if they could instead just say, "Well, actually, I'm not feeling too great, I'm upset about something, but I don't want to talk about it," or like the guy in this image, oh, I feel great, I'm so happy, I'm in love. That clarifies so that people can understand their emotional level, how they're feeling at the time. And that's a form of congruency. So the idea is if we are congruent, and not only to ourselves, because that's the first step, is our own awareness, but then if we're able to convey how we feel to other people, that can help avoid miscommunications and make things go clearer or more smoothly. And maybe it also can help you prevent situations where you really shouldn't talk, or maybe it's just not the right timing. So you know what, this isn't a good time for me to have this discussion. Can we do it another day? And that way you can avoid bringing other emotions into a discussion that it doesn't apply to. So, what they found is if you relate genuinely to others, it's more likely that your discussions will go well, and the more you become a real person and avoid, putting on a mask to protect yourself, the more people will reciprocate and be very genuine with you. And so that can really build strong relationships. At the same point, it's good to realize in some situations you're required to put on a mask. If you go and work at Disney, you're going to put on a mask and be happy, pretend to be happy when you're smiling at the people and interacting with your customers, regardless of how you're really feeling. Right? So we do need to keep in mind there are situations where you're asked to be incongruent. As long as you know how you're feeling, maybe you can overcome that. So here's an image of someone actually putting on different masks in front of the mirror, just to help you visualize what we're talking about here. Okay, and since this is from Carl Rogers, I'd like to just share one of his experiences with congruency. In his book, he wrote, "It is often hard for me, and for other writers, to get close to myself when I start to write. It is so easy to be distracted by the possibility of saying things which will catch approval or will look good to colleagues or make a popular appeal. How can I listen to the things that I really want to say and write?" And when he's talking about listening, he's talking about listening to himself. And so he did come up with his own solution for his situation, and that was to trick himself into pretending that he wasn't writing for a book that was going to be published, but that he was just writing for his own pleasure, similar to what we were talking about, just as if it were his own journal or diary. So I believe that knowing yourself helps understanding what is going on inside of you and what you're experiencing. And he says, "I like it when I can listen to myself. To really know what I am experiencing in the moment is by no means an easy thing. But I feel somewhat encouraged because I think that over the years I have been improving at it. I am convinced, however, that it is a lifelong task, and that none of us ever is totally able to be comfortably close to all that is going on within our own experience." And that means we're always still somewhat hiding behind masks, or maybe afraid to admit what's going on, or even not paying attention. We're always still learning to pay more attention to ourselves. So being congruent indeed requires to be able to listen to yourself, and listening to yourself requires, I believe, at least two things. One is, first of all, wanting to listen to yourself, wanting to know yourself, because that can be kind of scary. But hopefully you want to, hopefully you see it as empowerment, which I see it as. And being able to quiet all the thoughts and feelings that we constantly have. We're really good at distracting ourselves from learning what we're really thinking, or really thinking deeply. So my own experience with congruency is I used to practice karate 3 times a week when I was growing up, in junior high school and high school. And each class would start and end with meditation. So this helped me clear the thoughts and emotions I had when entering the class, whether I'd been bullied at school or just relationships with friends or girlfriends, whatever, family members, so that I could focus on the present moment of the class itself. And I think my karate instructor really understood that we bring all these other things into a room, and if we don't clear those thoughts out, we can't really learn effectively, right? However, recently, actually been quite a while since I've meditated. I've fallen out of the habit of meditating, and I haven't been keeping a diary or journal either, so I'm not being very good at practicing or developing my congruency. I keep very busy working, but I don't give any time to myself. That's definitely something I want to change. I've been disappointed in the way that I've behaved when communicating with others, and the outcomes haven't come out well because I really haven't given myself time, and then I'm short-tempered or react without thinking very deeply when I'm in situations I'm unhappy with. So my goal is to change this. I want to change this situation, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to report good news to you guys related to this. Yeah. So experiences and solutions. As Carl Rogers says, these are personal learnings growing out of my own experience. I am not attempting at all to say that you should learn or do the same things, but I feel that if I can report my own experience honestly enough, perhaps you can check what I say against your own experience and decide as to its truth and falsity for you. Meaning, you do not have to meditate, you do not have to believe anything I say, but we learn through narratives. We learn through other people's experiences as well as our own, and what may be true for one person may not be true for the other, but by comparing we can learn more about ourselves. So through knowing yourself, you can be congruent, aware of how you feel. So Carl Rogers describes something very close to love for yourself, which we will be learning more about later. And yeah, I hope you can also have that feeling of love for yourself. It'd be great if you already do, and that you can always keep it, because I guess we go through cycles. But basically loving yourself, having that feeling of love for yourself, and acceptance and forgiveness for yourself is a very powerful tool, and it's a great tool for being with others as well. Strengthen your relationships so you can focus on looking for the good in them, and having that positive regard for them as well. And in conclusion, Carl Rogers wrote the following. He said, "I have come to prize," which means to treasure, "I have come to prize each emerging facet, each part of my experience of myself. I would like to treasure the feeling of anger and tenderness and shame and hurt and love and anxiety and giving and fear, all the positive and negative reactions that crop up or that come up. I would like to treasure the ideas that emerge, whether they be foolish, creative, bizarre, sound, or trivial, all part of me. I like the behavioral impulses, appropriate, crazy, achievement-oriented, sexual, murderous. I want to accept all of these feelings, ideas, and impulses as an enriching part of me. I don't expect to act on all of them, but when I accept them all, I can be more real. My behavior, therefore, will be much more appropriate to the immediate situation. That doesn't mean that when I'm feeling like I want to kill someone, murderous, that I should actually go out and kill them. It just means appreciating and understanding, okay, yeah, I'm really angry at this person, and that's part of who I am, and now why do I feel this way? So what is the purpose of our lives? Have you ever thought about that? Well, one answer that I really liked and I came across in a book on student-centered learning was that it's to create meaning for ourselves and others. And I think that meaning is derived, it comes from our understanding of ourselves. What meaning it has for us may be different than what it is for others. So I'd like to suggest that you at least try mindfulness. And Andy Puddicombe has a TED Talk called All It Takes is 10 Mindful Minutes. And I'd like you to listen to his TED Talk, be able to talk about that in class, but also try it after watching his talk. See if you can spend 10 minutes a day from the time you watch this to our next class, which maybe you'll wait until Wednesday and we'll be on the day of class. But take 10 minutes, follow his ideas, and try to give yourself 10 minutes where you do absolutely nothing and you just reflect on your own thoughts and experiences. Okay? So thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoy.